Investigation tonight into a bizarre incident in Brooklyn. An apparently disturbed man fell to his death after being tasered by police in Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Witnesses say police did nothing to break Morales' fall, and his mother was standing just a few yards away.
The mother was screaming, he's going to fall, and they said, ma'am, step back, and they wouldn't allow the mother to talk to him.
He mentioned to me, I said, Iman, I'm going to pick you up now. Are you ready? He says, yeah, Mom, yes, I'm ready. I'm going to just jump in the shower. I should be back. And when I got there, I noticed that he was out the window. He was on the 3rd floor. So he wasn't in his right mind, I noticed. And somebody had called the police officer because he was screaming out the window. And when he was screaming out the window, I'm telling him, please, let me go up. And he's saying, no, these people are going to get me. I was begging the police officer to please throw down a mattress or get something to break his fall when he went on the fire escape, because when they broke into his house, he was afraid.
Maybe there's a chance for us to go back. Now that we have some direction, sure would be nice to be back at home where there's love and affection. And maybe I could have been time to slow up, giving us enough time.
Short statement I'd like to give to you here. I want to thank all of you for joining us on this most important day. This is only the beginning of a campaign to bring about justice in New York City. I note throughout the day, people with mental illness are in need of treatment, not jail time. The NYPD is not trained to understand mental illness. Officers are trained to use aggressive techniques that only further escalate the situation. It is time for the city and the NYPD to take action to prevent the unnecessary arrest, and in some cases, death of people with mental illness.
This incident was done in front of tons and tons of community residents, and this was just such a shock. Like, they didn't care that people were watching. So that really brought upon a need for us to push a lot louder, like we need it now.
Oftentimes you read these news stories and for a minute the community is really angry about what's happened and there's a lot of talk going on. So when Iman Morales, who was a 35-year-old man going through a mental crisis, was standing on a ledge naked and people got it on film and everyone was, up in arms about it, but quickly it sort of dissipates. People forget that it happens and things go back to normal. But really behind those incidences needs to be action. The community needs to come together because there's power in numbers.
I think NYPD has been trained since the beginning of times to be more military, especially now in today's times where they claim there's this big alert, on our nation. So they just want to control any situation.
Instead of trying to talk them out of something, they go in guns blazing and, like the SWAT team and stuff like that. And it's not necessary all the time.
So they come in harshly, let's subdue and contain. That's the mindset, subdue, control, and contain. And we're trying to tell them to change the way that they think and speak by saying, let's have compassion and try to de-escalate the situation and find out what's going on before you act.
So my name is Lisa Ortega, and I'm from Rights for Imprisoned People with Psychiatric Disabilities. And basically we're here today because we're trying to build relationships with communities, and we're trying to raise awareness about what's going on in the world that we live.
People dying in the streets. Oh, politicians get mad with all that greed. No more 13th Amendment for me, I'm free.
RIP is about people who've been in prison or go in prison, and about people who have psychiatric disabilities.
RIP is a grassroots organization that's made up of former inmates that have psychiatric disabilities. Some of them have been in the system, some haven't, and supporters and friends of.
Started in 2003 as an organizing force to address the criminalization of mental illness. we were realizing that there were a lot of people with mental illness in the criminal justice system, in the local jails and up in the state prisons. And although lawyers were helping individuals on a case-by-case basis, there really wasn't a policy push to try to examine why people with mental illness were ending up in prison and what we could do to make that not happen.
What's shaking, babe? What's breaking on the American team? What's shaking, babe? What's breaking? Do you know just what it means? I've been around the world for years, and I'm coming home again. And when I do, I'll be looking for you and searching for my friends. So what's shaking, babe? What's breaking on the American?
What I would like to see the police do is I'd like to see the police exhibit restraints when they come in. Assess the situation, find out if it's a volatile situation that's going to really lead to violence, or if it's something that can be talked down or talked out of. You know? And usually you could do it with a bullhorn. You can usually do it with a person that that's a good negotiator. You know, what they call it, crisis team, mobile crisis team. They don't have, I'm surprised to hear that they don't even have a good mobile crisis team unit here in New York.
Well, we've renamed it Community Crisis Intervention Teams, and these are just simple teams that are made up of community members, a psychiatrist, trained officers that would be able to go out on a 911 call and have the skills and ability to de-escalate a situation rather than escalate it, which would lead to tasering, beatings, or death.
Been around the world, yeah. I can't find my baby. I don't know when, I don't know why. Why he's gone away, and I don't know where he can be. My baby, but I'm gonna find him.
What we're saying for New York City is that we're really open to gelling it to make it fit New York City, but it could easily work in New York City. All it means is that there would be one particular person who would be a community person who has a stake in it that could oversee what's happening to make sure that everything is legit.
When we talk to local precincts, their initial reaction is, wow, this actually seems like a good idea because we're struggling. We don't really know how to handle this population and we're tired of all this bad press. But unfortunately, the way that the NYPD and most government institutions run is it runs from the top down. And so we've had a face-to-face with Ray Kelly and approached him and told him that he really needs to bring the CIT model to New York. His initial response was, it's great, but the response time is too slow. It's not going to work. Officers can get there faster and the situation can be dealt with faster the way we do it versus the way the CIT does it. But you know what? Sometimes time is the important thing, and time is what saves a life, because Iman Morales shouldn't have died, and Kyle Coppin and all these people who have died at the hands of the NYPD, all these could have been prevented if the person just took the time to really understand the situation for what it was, that it's not a dangerous person, it's a person in need.
I know firsthand about police's approach to your illness, and I have a long history of mental illness, and I've done some things that brought on by my hallucinations, and to be, you know, just carted off, I mean, just ripped away from whatever home that I happen to put together, and be ripped away and taken to jail and then sent to St. Elizabeth, you know, and stay forever long, and I lose all my possessions, and I lose the things that I'm able to gather.
It could start as someone just being on the street screaming for help, or maybe they're making a lot of noise and the cops come, and then the person can't listen to the cops because a voice in his head is telling him, just keep screaming, just keep screaming. So all of a sudden he's resisting arrest, or he's assaulting a police officer when he's really just in need of help. So he gets booked and sent through to the court system, and the court system says, well, there aren't really any viable options for you. We're going to send you to Rikers Island. And he's going to go to Rikers Island, and the people there are going to say, well, we don't really know how to treat this person and what to do. I guess we'll give him the standard meds that we give everyone else, but that's about as much as we can do. And if he's lucky, he could spend 30, 60 days in Rikers and get out, but then the cycle begins again. But in some cases, because they're not able to follow the rules of jail, they get tickets that keep them in prison longer and send them upstate and put them into solitary confinement, because the correctional officers in the system see them as a threat when they're really just people in need.
This is a poem by Brother Maurice Little Ill. He wrote this
while he was going through a struggle. He wanted to get out so bad, and he wrote this poem, and he's a part of our workshop. This poem is called About Me, by Brother Maurice Little-Ill. I know I am a free man. People say I talks too much. I am God, Lord, Allah's people. Allah, God, Lord, guides me out of the hospital. The judge kept me in for 24 years. The doctors say I never will know how to read. The doctors are wrong about me. God, Lord, Allah always helps me think right. I am here to learn all I can. I know God, Lord, Allah will call on me. I did wrong and good. The judge took me away from my mother and my father. I was 11 years old in jail. I did not know how to read. People look at me wrong. They think I'm crazy and sick. I know I am a good man. I always want to do good things. I like to see people happy. That's Brother Maurice Little-Ill.
When a client is picked up by the police, the first thing I would like is to sit them down somewhere, refresh them with cold water, and ask them, do they want food? Ask them, don't rush them into a place to take a bath and pour all this stuff over them first, you know, and to get rid of whatever germs or something. It's very insensitive. But I would like that the police know some kind of intervention. And I would also like that the police have education about consumers, that it means if they encounter a consumer that's in trauma or difficulty, the first reaction would not be to take them to jail.
We will not be silent. We call upon all elected officials, all community organizations, all centers of faith, and all residents to come together and ensure that the NYPD changes its practice and implement community crisis interventions teams now. These CITs must include community involvement that afford transparency and accountability. And what do we want? We want justice. And when do we want it? We want it now.